How's it going, everybody? This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. So, if you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat. Uh-oh. Gotta re-plug in my microphone. Oy, 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 oy. Okay. I don't love that. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. All right, we are back. Fantastic. All right, this is Ask Me Anything About Politics, everybody. So if you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you are first trying to learn about it, and so I like to make myself available. What's up, Missy? Good to see you again, or good to see you for the first time. I like to make myself available to answer all your questions about politics, so you don't got to worry about getting judged or roasted or debating or anything like that. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. It can feel like trying to learn a new language because sometimes we refer to politicians just by their last names, or we will talk about three-letter agencies that you might not know what they are, or we will talk about things like reconciliation or the filibuster or continuing resolutions and things like that. And so this is a place where you can ask those questions, and no one's going to make fun of you for asking your question. Nobody's going to roast you for being right wing or left wing or whatever. Luke M says, did Trump take the investment from Middle East to create tax breaks for billionaires? No, no, I do not believe that that is the case. He is going to, give tax breaks to billionaires, but I do not believe that the currency that he is getting, the investment that he is getting from Middle East countries, is either going to go into his pockets or the pockets of his rich buddies. But I don't think it's actually going to find its way into the, benefiting the American taxpayers. Mr. Crashout says, do people really care about politics or just showing off for the neighbors? I mean, I really care about politics. Politics is directly related to the things that are going good or bad in your life. So if you can't afford rent, if you are worried about being able to, like, if you're worried about something happening to you physically and you're worried that you're not going to be able to afford medical care, like all of that stuff is intimately related to politics. If you're part of a union, if you don't want to get sexually harassed at work, if you don't want to get exploited by your boss, all of that stuff is related to politics. It's Zach says, do you think Trump is doing a bad job or a good job? Bad job. PC really says, how do you feel about FDR? I mean, I'm not an expert, but he seems pretty cool to me. Let's see here. Emo Pup says Thomas Crooks was justified. I'm not familiar with Thomas Crooks. All right, welcome to the live stream, everybody. This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. You can ask me anything that you like. No question is too complicated or simple. There is no such thing as a dumb question. I don't believe in making people feel stupid or ashamed for not knowing things or trying to learn new things. I'm also not here to roast you if you have different political beliefs than me. So if you are a MAGA person, or if you're a far left person, or a centrist person, it doesn't matter who you voted for. If you didn't vote at all, I am just here to answer your good faith questions about politics. It's Zach says, who would you want for president in the next election? I always punt on that question. It's Zach because I'm trying to get people focused on the midterm elections. We got elections happening in 2026 that Democrats need to run the table for. Otherwise, we're all going to be fucked. Missy says, what do you think about the South African refugees? It's just more evidence that Trump is a racist piece of shit who believes conspiracy theories. White South Afrikaners are not being persecuted. They have almost all of the wealth in South Africa. So yeah, this is just Trump believing online conspiracy theories. Irishman Ace says, vote out anyone older than 40. I'm not against that necessarily. PC really Lee says, how do you feel about federal overreach? I think it's like a case by case basis. PC really, like, I don't know that there is a consistent philosophy of federal overreach in like America's history. I think it much more of a case case-by-case basis. Like currently the Trump administration is trying to vest all of the power of government, American government, into the White House. So if it's something that he doesn't want to do, like making sure that disabled kids can get to school, or making sure that sorry, having some connection issues here. All right, having some connection issues. All right, so yeah, the Trump administration is like, if we there are things we don't want to do, like we don't want to make sure that disabled kids can go to school. We don't care about rebuilding your city if it gets destroyed by an earthquake or a hurricane or a fire or anything like that. But every other decision, we think we should be able to make that decision. We think all power should be vested in the White House. Gene says, with all he's done, why not impeach Trump? So there are articles of impeachment that the Democrats have, or at least one Democrat has forced a vote on. It will probably not pass because Republicans have the majority in the House. So the reason why you wouldn't impeach Trump is just because the Republican Party is never going to impeach Trump. But if you're asking, like, why is the Republican Party not going to impeach Trump, it is because the Republican Party is corrupt and rotten to the core. From toe to tip, the Republican Party is complete and utter garbage. I'm talking about elected politicians and political talking heads. I have all amounts of empathy for Republican voters because they just got tricked. They just got conned. So yeah, that's the only reason why you wouldn't impeach Donald Trump, is either you are a Democrat who knows where the political winds are blowing in the Republican Party and know that they don't believe in country over party. They believe in just trying to accumulate as much money and power for themselves and their rich buddies as humanly possible. And that involves not impeaching Donald Trump, even though he has done wildly impeachable things already. Ren says, why are Democrats losing more young men from their side? Propaganda and misinformation. Ooh, boy, sorry. My computer just did a real weird thing. So I don't even know if I'm still here yet. Do you guys still see me? My computer just did a whole fucking thing. Woo, it's still doing a whole fucking thing. Oy, oy, oy. Good lord. All right, so yeah, I'm not sure if you guys are still seeing me on TikTok because my computer is just doing a whole fucking thing. Somebody comment something to let me know if I'm still here on TikTok, because my computer was just futzing at me. Let's see here. Yeah, Ren, why are Democrats losing more young men from their side? Thank you, Mark and Phoenix. I appreciate that. It's because of propaganda. It is because there is a lot of billionaire money pushing narratives that make it seem like the Democratic Party is like, the party for girls. Like I was getting a lot of comments on my live streams where people would say, like, imagine being a guy who votes for Kamala Harris. Yeah, so that's that. Let's see here. It's Zach says, why have my gas prices been lower but groceries been higher priced? It's different in different parts of the country. Like gas prices are extremely high where I am living. But there is some economic data to suggest that egg prices have gone down recently. But yeah, the economy is complicated. We sort of look at this. We try to look at this from a macro perspective, where what are the trends across the country, and by every conceivable metric, Donald Trump has put us in very precarious financial position, where we are probably going to be seeing massive layoffs soon. We are probably going to be seeing empty shelves soon. We are probably going to be seeing inflation soon. So yeah, but right now things are wonky and weird because we are still kind of like in a transitionary period. Let's see here. Billskin says, I'm in the bread business. Bread will never go down in price, just like certain food products. All right, if you say so, Bill. I don't know if that's true or what. RW26 says, fear mongering. I don't know who you're talking about, but I am definitely not. Jeffrey says, it's not complicated if you actually understand the process. Jeffrey, you just proved to me that you have no idea anything about economics, because it is extremely complicated, especially when you take global factors into consideration. But yeah, economics is extremely complicated. So yeah, if you don't think it's complicated, go get your master's in economics. Tell me how long it takes. Tell me how hard you have to work. Let's see here. John Mealy says, bro, you don't know anything. LOL. I know lots of things. Order of the Phoenix says, Latinos for Trump, Hispanics for America, blah, blah, blah. That's not a question. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but actually ask a question, be part of the conversation, or you're going to get blocked. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Nitro368 says the Qatar plane deal was started under Biden. Wow, Nitro. That is one of the most bold lies I have ever seen. Are you here just to spread misinformation, or are you somebody who got tricked and read that somewhere? Let's see here. Luis says, does AIPAC control the U.S. government? No, but they do have a lot of influence because of all the money that they have. Jamili says, tell me you voted for Kamala without telling me. I'll tell you I voted for Kamala. I'm a Democrat. I'm proud of it. Nick says, why didn't you vote for Nader? I did vote for Nader in 2000 and I actually regret it because I could have voted for Gore in Ohio, but I didn't know anything about politics at the time. Question mark says, why is the plane so controversial? It's illegal for the president to accept gifts from anybody, especially from foreign nations. Prowfit says, talk about your platform. I don't know what would you like me to say about it? Luke says, economic update. Things are weird, but every economist is saying that things are going downhill. Nick says, don't be a hater, vote Nader. I don't even think that Nader is running anymore. Nitro says, it's a lie. Let's see here. Are you the guy that said that dumb thing about the plane? Yeah. Nitro. Is that who? Yeah. I don't need to prove you wrong. It is a fucking lie. Like, the Qataris weren't trying to give Biden the plane, and we were just working on all the details. Donald Trump went to Qatar. He met with the Qatari royalty. They gave him the plane. It's as simple as that. Let's see here. You cannot even talk about the Democratic platform. How are you convincing me to vote Democrat? I don't really think you're a real person, Prowfit, because you did not respond to the thing that I just said. But yeah, if you want, tell me an issue, and I'll tell you about the Democratic platform on that issue. Luke says, have you pulled your investments? Yes, I have. Lindsay Reed said the budget bill got blocked today. Ooh, interesting. I am curious to find out more about that. David says, who would one vote Democrat? They don't, not for anything. Your English, not great, David. Clean up question, maybe I answer. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. If you got questions about politics, just let me know. I'm not going to make fun of you for not knowing things. I'm not going to argue with you if you have different political opinions than me. I'm just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. Jamili says, imagine living in America and hating and complaining about all the wins Trump gave us, LOL. Jamili, you're not asking questions. You're going to get booted. And also, Trump is not winning anything. We have done nothing but decline as a country since he's been in charge. Scott123 says, who's going to finish the homes now that ICE has removed the workers? That is an excellent question. Luke says, what are you anticipating the next 2 months? I have no fucking idea. I am terrified because it could go either way. The direction that the country is going to go over the next 2 months, 6 months, 2 years, whatever, is entirely dependent on how much work citizens like you and me do right now. We are in a weird position where the people who have all the power right now are all bad faith, corrupt actors. So the Republican Party is in control of Congress. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are in control of the White House and the DOJ. The judiciary has been weighted heavily towards conservatives. So we can't sit around and wait for somebody to save us because literally all the levers of power have been given to the worst people. So what's going to happen in the future? That depends on us. That depends on people like you and me actually doing the work to stop this lawless and unconstitutional administration. All right. MXL Rocky. Trump is doing nothing for the low-cost Americans. That is accurate. June Osborne says, has Trump paid Carol yet? I mean, he has a history of not paying people, so I have no idea. Noah Ruiz says, economy is weird. You mean massively improving by every indicator? No, that is not true. By any stretch of the imagination, that is not true. What's weird about it is that we're in a transitionary period, and also Trump is a psychopath who keeps on announcing tariffs and removing tariffs, and then making deals for non-tariffs, and then redoing the tariffs and shit like that. So we don't know what's going on. Companies can't plan. People can't buy things, companies can't buy things to prepare for the future. And at the same time, a bunch of companies just ordered a ton of shit from overseas to try to beat the tariffs. So, we have empty ports now, but we have a massive amount of, of supply in certain areas. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird that gas prices are high in certain areas and low in certain areas. Egg prices are high in certain areas and low in certain areas. It's weird that hiring is basically on a complete freeze. It's weird that ICE is renditioning people to a fucking concentration camp in El Salvador. We don't know what's going on. Additionally, a lot of the agencies that would be in charge of reporting this information out and keeping track of it have all been either downsized, fired, or defunded by the Trump administration. So now we can't even trust the numbers that are even coming out of our own government, you know? So it's weird. That's what it means when I say that economics is weird right now. Scott123, Jared for president. No one would ever vote for me for president. Let's see here. Flegs me says best tariffs ever only in Democratic states is gas high. I don't believe that is accurate. Flemsy, and also that's not a question. If you don't ask questions, you get booted. Trinity says hi. Can I join as a guest to ask a question? Yeah, sure thing. Trinity, did you request already? Let's see here. For some reason, my multi-guest. Ah, there it is. Where are you at? Where are you at? There we go. Trinity. All right. You know, this is going to be weird, Trinity. This is going to be weird. I don't know if your audio is going to come through because I'm using the desktop platform here, but we'll try it. We'll try it. We'll see. We'll see how things go. All right. Are you here, Trinity? Can I hear you? No, I cannot. I cannot hear you. I don't know if it's just my volume. Yeah. Can anybody hear Trinity? Sorry, I don't think this is an experiment that has not worked. I don't think, Trinity. Oh, you guys can, but I can't. All right, I gotta boot you, Trinity. I don't even know how to boot you. This is terrible. I got great numbers right now, but I am experiencing issues. All right. Yeah, sorry, Trinity. I gotta figure out how to actually hear the things that you are saying next time. All right. Yeah, I'll work on that for next time. But thanks for being here. You know, put your question in the chat instead, and I will see about fixing that next time. Let's see here. Do we think the host has ever kissed a girl? I mean, according to my wife, yeah. Luke says, as someone who has limited knowledge in economics, what would you recommend? What would I recommend? I guess the big thing is if your investment strategy is to buy and hold, which is what every economic expert is going to tell you, you know, unless you're like somebody with a fucking Bloomberg machine who can, you know, see trades in real time and shit like that. I would not recommend you do anything except for the most conservative financial advice, which is basically just hold what you have. But yeah, I'm not qualified to give financial advice. I'm not like a, you know, what do you call it? That is not my area of expertise. And I think it's actually illegal for me to give financial advice if I'm not, you know, officially telling you that I don't know anything about it. So yeah, it's weird. User a whole bunch of numbers says it's not that liberals are ignorant. It's just that they know things that aren't true. User a bunch of numbers. That's not a question. And also it makes no sense. Luke says, I meant learning more about econ, not investing. Oh yeah, I got no fucking idea. Noah Ruiz says, so indicators are great. You just don't believe them. No. Listen to anybody who is into economics, man. Nobody is saying this except for right-wing media, you know, Noah. Trinity says, I was just going to ask your opinions on DEI, the pros and cons. Do you think it's fair? So the reason why DEI exists, DEI, for anybody who does not know, stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, is because we have a history in this country of hiring people who are less qualified just because they are white or male or straight. And so recognizing this trend, which is seen in all of the available data, we have tried to address that. And we've tried to say, like, all right, what can we do to even this out, to make our companies look more like the fabric of America? It's better for the economy. It's better for companies. Yeah, you know, all we are doing is we are hiring people who are more qualified over mediocre straight white males. And that's what DEI is. And I think it's great. And anybody who tells you it's not great is lying to you. Lazarus says, that is false. You don't have any data. That's not true. I have all of it. Trinity says, do you think DEI is why we have had only white presidents? No, not exactly. I think we've only had white presidents because of the reason why we need DEI, which is people's preconceived notions about what a president should look like and sound like and stuff like that. Why would any employer care about that, and how would they know? PC really was the straight thing even a factor until DEI came into play? Why would any employer care about that, and how would they know? So there are, this. So you're asking me to go over like decades of anti-LGBTQ culture that has been experienced all over the globe for a very, very long time. If you want to know why a company might fire somebody for being gay, or why a person might need to fear people finding out that they're gay, watch the movie Philadelphia. Like this stuff is everywhere. Watch the movie, the Imitation Game. That's the one with Benedict Cumberbatch where he was playing Alan Turing, right? Watch an Oscar Wilde biopic. Like it happened frequently, consistently, all the time. I'm not making this shit up. Let's see here. Andrew Mitchell says, if you were upset about the current administration imposing sanctions on the ICC, how would you fight back? I mean, the same way that you fight back against this administration in all the ways, like you gotta protest and strike and organize and boycott and vote and convince people to vote for better politicians, Democratic politicians. Luke, thoughts on Pelosi? So Pelosi is a very savvy legislator. She was a trailblazer. And so I think that she deserves flowers for all the things that she has accomplished. She is, however, a very centrist part of the old school gerontocracy, pay your dues kind of Democratic Party. And so she has done and said a lot of things that I vehemently disagree with. I am currently supporting the primary challenge against her in California. There is a really cool young person named Sakat who worked for AOC and is trying to beat Nancy Pelosi in the primary. And I support younger, more progressive candidates in general. Let's see here. What is your current understanding of the Commerce Clause, Jarrett? I used to know what that was, but it is escaping my noodle at the moment. Diego Vargas says, Walmart just released a red alert saying that prices are going up because of tariffs. So yeah, whoever was asking me about the financial indicators all being great, there you go. Luke says, did you like Rubio? No, I have never liked Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is a liar, a con man, and a massive piece of shit. Let's see here. Can you define commerce real quick for me, Jarrett? Are you just testing me? Or do you actually want to know? I believe commerce is just like the business of, trading, money and currency for goods and services and shit like that. User a bunch of numbers says they robbed Bernie, true or false. It is true that the DNC put their finger on the scale for both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. But also, I do not believe that the effort that the DNC put in made that big of a difference. Because if you actually look at the voting numbers, Bernie lost both of those primaries by wide margins, by like millions and millions of votes. So even though Bernie Sanders was my candidate, I have to admit that just America did not vote for him. They didn't vote for him. They did not vote for him in the primary. Elijah Ripper says, do you like Donald Trump? No, I do not. Beat says, did you see that Twitter post about the former FBI director? Yeah, I saw that James Comey wrote 8647. 86, for anybody that does not know, is restaurant slang for we are out of it, or get rid of it. So yeah, James Comey was basically saying, let's get rid of Donald Trump because he's a terrible president who's doing wildly unconstitutional and illegal things. Now, of course, the right wing is going to lose their mind and say that, oh my God, he's calling for people to assassinate the president, but that is not what that means at all. Let's see here. Fizzy Pop says, if it was overwhelming he was going to win, they would have let him. I don't know what that means, Fizzy Pop, but yeah, the Democratic Party, I do not believe that their efforts to assist Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden in those primaries really made that big of a difference. Let's see here. The New Deal laws that FDR forced the Supreme Court to accept change the definition of commerce in the Constitution to apply to basically anything. Okay. You're not here to engage, my man. Seems like you're just here to try to prove that I don't know shit. KP the Great says, how do you know that's not what he meant? Well, I know because I worked in restaurants for 12 years, and 86 does not mean murder somebody. It means get rid of somebody. JJ says, this is why you need mods. I got mods. PC really says, I am here to engage. All right, prove it. As a right winger, if you don't like Trump, I can't change your mind. Do whatever you want. Okay, well, I mean, don't you want to engage with a fellow American citizen about why I believe the things that I believe? All right, let's see here. King Zip says, what's up, bro? Do you think World War is going to happen? I don't think so. I will say that global instability always goes up when Trump is in office, funnily enough. But yeah, I am pretty sure that we are going to step away from the brink. I do not believe that there are enough people who are interested in having another world war for there to be another world war. Terry says, did you see in his tax bill that CEO bonuses would be considered tips, so not taxed in the next 4 years? I did not see that, Terry, and also I am skeptical about that because there is also nothing in the tax bill that says that tips will not be taxed. So there is nothing about no tax on overtime. There is nothing about no tax on tips. There was nothing about no tax on. There was a third one that they said they were going to do, but they didn't. So yeah, I'm a little skeptical about that because I heard that they wouldn't put that in for a bunch of reasons. Let's see here. In TikTok, I see a lot of this in TikTok. Well, you got to take everything that you see on the internet with a massive grain of salt, everybody. Social Security, thank you very much. Laughing Through Chaos. Yes. Let's see here. Robbie Albin says tax on tips is still in reconciliation. As far as I know, the bill that passed the House did not have anything about no tax on tips. Somebody just said in the chat that that the bill was blocked in the Senate, and so maybe they're discussing these things in the Senate during reconciliation. But I have not heard about that. Epic Lobster Man, why are you mad? Trump has done so much in his first 100 days. Epic Lobster Man, I'm mad because what he has done in his first 100 days is all really, really terrible. Let's see here. PC really says taxes, period, are stupid. No, they are not. Taxes is how we pay for things that make all of our lives better, like the fire department, for example. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't care. Tax on tips is so stupid. Like, this is cut and dry, y'all. I mean, yeah, no comment, I guess. Ella says, do you think we're going to have another pandemic? I kind of do, because we have a person in charge of Health and Human Services who doesn't really believe in science. We have defunded the National Institute of Health. We have defunded the Centers for Disease Control. We have exited the World Health Organization. So yeah, if we were going to have a pandemic, it would be because the Trump administration has put us in the perfect position to have another fucking pandemic, So yeah, I mean, we don't know, there's bird flu is spiking, COVID is spiking, measles is spiking, tuberculosis is spiking. We don't really have USAID to stop Ebola from coming into this country anymore. So yeah, I'm fucking wearing a mask. I don't know about y'all, but I'm fucking wearing a mask. Let's see here. Luke, thoughts on Chauvin potentially getting pardoned? I mean, that is just one of over 1,000 Trump pardons that I think should be enough to disqualify all Republicans from public office going forward. This dude was found guilty of murder, and Donald Trump is going to pardon him because the person that he murdered was black. Let's see here. You can look at cases Knight, Coe versus the United States to see the effects and changes that FDR did to this country to expand the Fed. Okay, not really sure what point you're trying to make there, buddy. How should corporations distribute their profits instead of engaging in buybacks? What should they do? They should give bonuses to all of the employees. They should pay their CEOs and upper management less and give more money to the people actually doing the work. Alrighty. The Angry Progressive says, do you think we have a chance to take the House and Senate in 26? According to current polling, and polling is just a snapshot of the moment, so we have no idea what's actually going to happen in the future. But current polling suggests that we have a very good chance of taking the House and a very slim chance of taking the Senate. Now, the thing is, the Angry Progressive, all of this depends on how much work people like you and me do. If we can have the kind of mass mobilization that I am trying to inspire by doing these fucking lives every fucking day, then we can see people out there on the street convincing their friends, their families, their neighbors, their coworkers, convincing them to vote and to vote for Democrats. Partner. So yeah, we can. There are exactly enough seats available in the Senate for Democrats to win a 2/3 majority, which is what we would need to remove Trump from office. Will people actually do the work of getting those votes? that is an open question. But we can do it if we just go out there and do the work and convince other people to do the work and recruit other people to do the work and make sure that we're talking to the people that we know to make sure they're not stuck in propaganda rabbit holes that are convincing them to either vote for Republicans or not vote at all, then yeah, we could 100% do it. But, people are busy trying to survive in this capitalist hellscape that we're currently living in. People are busy. People don't care, So yeah, will people do the work? I have no idea. But if they do, then we can. Austin Reese says, what do you think about the $5.5 billion golf deal in Qatar? I don't know. Texas guy, Trump is America first. That is a lie. Trump is Trump first. I don't know enough about that golf deal, but I do know that a lot of the, authoritarian states like Qatar will try to sports wash their image by getting heavily involved in sports, Epic Lobster Man says, why do Democrats want to give money to Ukraine but mad when Trump brings in billions? Trump is not bringing in billions. He's bringing in billions into his pocket, Epic Lobster Man. Angela Baby US says, what is the work? The work is a couple of different things, Angela. The work is talking to your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, and everybody that knows you and cares about you and loves you already. And the things you're going to talk to them about are, number one, making sure that they are actually getting the news and not just, believing the shit that they are seeing on the internet or from right-wing media spheres. That's number one. Number two is convincing them to vote if they don't vote, convincing them to vote for Democrats if they don't always vote for Democrats, and then convincing them to join you in the work of doing the thing that you just did to them. Also, the work is protesting and boycotting and striking and putting political pressure on your elected representatives. The work is also joining groups that are already doing this work, like Indivisible, Run for Something, and Vote Save America. Thank you for your question, Angela Baby US. Luke says, every candidate has hidden motives, to be honest. That is not true, Luke, but when you say every candidate or both political parties or whatever, when you paint them with the same brush, all you're doing is giving cover for the worst actors. Because when you do so, Trump is one of the most, if not the most corrupt presidents we've ever had. But if you say all politicians are corrupt, you are basically giving him a pass for all of the shit that he is doing that is blatantly corrupt and illegal. John Bradley says, what did you think of the RFK Jr. hearings? I didn't watch all of them, but I did hear him say that nobody should take advice on health from me, and I'm like, dude, that's fucking your job, that guy is such a fucking piece of shit. Let's see here. Texas guy says, and Joe Rogan took horse paste, media lies. I mean, he did, though. He did take ivermectin. He admitted it. Robbie says, dude doesn't want to work for money. Nobody wants to work for money. Nobody does. But I do. I do have a job. So there you go. Let's see here. Robway says, not his job, LOL. No, it literally is. He is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. All right, Luke says, don't mind me asking, but what do you do for work? I am a professional stand-up comedian. I just got finished with a tour across the country. All right. Epic Lobster Man says, I will obviously not change your mind. Well, you're not here in good faith, Epic Lobster Man, so there you go. Let's see here. Texas guy says, ivermectin saved my sister on the ventilator. I'm pretty sure the ventilator saved your sister, Texas guy. Also, I don't think you're a real person. Ant says, never heard of you. Well, I'm not that famous, but I am a stand-up comedian, and there is tons of evidence out there to support that claim. John Bradley says, what is your favorite city to do stand-up in? They're all great. There are great audiences and bad audiences in every city. Robbie says, inheritance is a job. No, inheritance is not a job. That is why rich people are pieces of shit who get money for doing nothing. Texas guy says, real person, but type fast. I doubt. Ask question, Texas guy. You are just saying things that are not accurate. Let's see here. I saw you in Eureka with Steve. You were very funny. Thank you, Adore and Alex Jewelry. I appreciate you. Ant says, I'm sure you don't tour red counties. Guarantee you ride the urban liberal crowds. Nope. Let's just, since you mentioned it, why don't we just take a look at my tour schedule real quick. This is technically not a question about politics, but, I am always down for proving somebody wrong. Let's see here. All right, let's go to my calendar. All right, we'll just go through a couple of the places that I played recently. Okay. Reno, Nevada, El Cerrito, California, Boise, Idaho, Salt Lake City, Fort Collins, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Colorado, St. Louis, Missouri, Indianapolis, Winchester, Kentucky, Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska. So yeah, there you go. Just me riding the fucking liberal city train. Alrighty. Texas guy says you don't keep up with politics. Yes, I do. And if you don't ask a question, Texas guy, you're gonna get booted. Laura, all or nothing thinking is a cognitive distortion. Please look it up. That is accurate. Carmine says, sure, Mr. Worldwide. That's pretty funny. All right, over on Twitch, we got my old buddy Samurai Destroyer. Good to see you again. Do you think media on both sides, like CNN and left-leaning news outlets and Fox News and right-leaning news outlets, have spread misinformation on cases? I mean, both Democrats and Republicans have been corrupt in the past. That is accurate that both Democrats and Republicans have been corrupt in the past, but there is a big difference between, number one, the policies of both parties and the politicians in both parties. Because on the nets, there are more corrupt Republicans than there are corrupt Democrats, and the platform of the Democratic Party is trying to address and stop corruption, while the platform of the Republican Party is trying to assist and make corruption easier and more legal. And I can go into specifics there if you like. Now, as far as like the media on both sides, we have a distorted and inaccurate view of political bias in the media, because there's right-wing media, which a ton of data has come out about how inaccurate and how much misinformation they push on right-wing media. It is the least accurate media that you can watch is right-wing media, and a bunch of bipartisan, completely objective studies have shown that. Now, mainstream media, people have a view of that as being left-leaning, but on the whole, it is not. Because, you know, news organizations like CNN, like the New York Times, like the Associated Press, they try to appear as unbiased as humanly possible, so they tend to water down the psychopathy, not a word, of the Republican Party. And they will say things like, you know, Trump's acceptance of a $400 billion plane from Qatari royalties upsets some critics, as opposed to the headline that it should have been, which was biggest corrupt piece of shit of all time does extremely corrupt piece of shit thing. So the only real media that I would say is left-leaning is progressive media, like MSNBC or like Crooked Media. But I also think that it's the most accurate media because they're the only ones who call out the Republicans for being as big of psychopaths as they are. They also don't shy away from talking bad about Democrats. Democrats get a tongue bath from exactly 0 places in the mainstream media, the right-wing media, left-wing media. Nobody just gives the Democratic Party a pass the way that the right-wing media will give Republicans a pass. Alrighty. But thank you for your question, Samurai Destroyer. Let's see here. I mean, they're left-wing media who got things wrong, just like right-wing media. Yeah, but the difference is the left-wing media will correct things that they get wrong, and they also don't do it on purpose. Right-wing media does it on purpose. Like, they spread lies about election misinformation to elect Republican candidates. But left-wing media will make mistakes the same way that any media makes mistakes. Missy says, if Biden or Obama got a plane gifted, MAGA will lose their shit. That is accurate. Let's see here. Texas guy says, why are there so many left-wing medias? I mean, there's only 2. There's MSNBC and Crooked. Everything else is either centrist or right-wing. Chow Men says, you sound super biased, bro. Well, I'm not. AJ Morant says, oh yeah, I got that one already. Ben Jadlow says, both wings spread misinformation. Right wing's misinformation is much more harmful. I would disagree with that, Ben Jadlow. Mainstream media and left-wing media do not spread misinformation. Sometimes they get things wrong, but that's different than spreading misinformation. Spreading misinformation is saying things that you know to be inaccurate for a purpose. Look at the Dominion lawsuit against Fox News. They knew they were lying about that, but they were still pushing that narrative because they were trying to incite their base to do a coup and take over America. And they did the coup, but they failed the coup. Chowman says, how can you say that just not true at all? What did I say that you think was untrue? Because all the things that I'm saying are accurate. You can double check them by giving it a Google. Brown-eyed girl says, mainstream media treated Trump like a legitimate candidate. Yes, I agree with you, brown-eyed girl, but also, you know, like, you kind of have to, you know, like, that's one area where I'm just like, I mean, he is running for president, and he does have millions of people that are supporting him, so yeah, you know. Let's see here. Chow Men says left media has never spread disinformation. They've made mistakes, Chow Men, but they have never, on purpose, spread disinformation or misinformation. They have never knowingly published a story that was untrue. Let's see here. Chow Men says right, surely worse, but both do it. Again, there is a big difference between publishing a story that you know to be false to further your agenda versus making a mistake. All right. Robert Natassia says, haha, seriously. I don't know what you're referring to. J.Y. Jelly says, what's your view on Bill Maher? Like him or think he's too moderate? I agree with most of his views. So I don't like Bill Maher. I used to like Bill Maher, but then he got old and weird and set in his ways. I am watching him be a victim of misinformation the same way that I'm watching a lot of people be victim of misinformation. The criticisms that he had of the Democratic Party are baked into propaganda narratives that have been put in front of him by the billionaire class. And his critiques of the Republican Party have become very milquetoast over the years and very rote. So yeah, everybody gets old. Everybody kind of slips into, I'm an old person, I know everything, and I'm never going to challenge any of my beliefs and shit like that. It happened with Chappelle. It fucking happened with Dennis Miller. Yeah, it happens to a lot of artists. And a lot of artists, the people that I respect the most are the ones that continue to grow and change and develop as they get older. Bill Burr, Jerry Seinfeld. These are guys who have come out hard against cancel culture and then come back and said, actually, I don't think cancel culture is a big fucking deal. I think maybe a bigger fucking deal is fascism. Let's see here. How do I feel about Steve Bannon or Stephen Miller? Both massive pieces of shit. Let's see here. RTP's falsetto voice says, which media channel settled a $787 million lawsuit over lying? That was Fox News. It could have been treated differently in 2026. Now he is a serious candidate. Yeah, I guess. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Jaster222 says the claim left-wing news don't publish false information is blatantly false. That's not what I said, Jaster. Again, sometimes media organizations make mistakes, but there's a big difference between a media organization making a mistake and a media organization like Fox News publishing a story that they know is false, like the Dominion voting machine story, in order to push a specific narrative. Right-wing media does that. Left-wing media does not do that. Ask Kelly says, how do you feel about the media covering Ben Cohen getting arrested? I don't remember who that is, S. Kelly. Can you refresh my memory? Lucky Penny says, you are awesome, and I am a Granny progressive. I'm so glad to hear that, Granny. Let's see here. You win your old car is pretty funny. Let's see here. Don't be scared says, how do you feel about Ye's new song? Kanye just can go fucking eat my butthole. The founder of Ben and Jerry's. Yeah, those guys have always been like crazy progressive. I am always very proud of the things that they have done. And yeah, it is par for the course. This administration just fucking loves arresting people for speaking their mind, So they are blatantly anti-First Amendment. And so all those fucking First Amendment ding-dongs who are out there standing the Republican Party because they believed in the First Amendment, well, now you've got a Trump administration who is throwing people in jail just for saying things. So, where are you at, guys? Where are you at, my First Amendment fucking raiders? Where are you at? You should be. Are you at the front lines? That's where you said you would be. Alrighty. Missy says they blocked the budget bill because it didn't cut Medicaid enough. Luke says, why didn't Fox get sued then? They did. That's the reason why they had to settle, is because they were going to lose that case. Wavy Lay Ship says, how do you feel about Pete Buttigieg for 2028? So I like Pete Buttigieg, but he is also not the progressive candidate that is not like my first choice. He is one of the best, if not the best communicator in the Democratic Party. I like the fact that he's young. I like the fact that he's gay. I like the fact that he is relatively new in politics. And he's very smart. He's extremely smart. But there are a couple of issues with him potentially being the candidate in 2028. Number one being that a lot of the Democratic electorate loves to play political pundit with their vote, where they will have a candidate they like, but they won't vote for them because they are worried that they'll lose the general election. We saw this with Obama in 2008, where he had really terrible poll numbers with African Americans because they did not believe that white people would vote for him. But then when he won Iowa, black people were suddenly like, okay, yes, we support him 100%. This is exactly what happened with Elizabeth Warren in the 2020 primary, where people said, we love Elizabeth Warren. She's our number one choice, but we don't think that she'll win the general election. So they voted for Bernie or Biden instead. And the fact of the matter is that because Pete Buttigieg is a gay man, a lot of Democratic voters are going to worry about whether or not he can get elected. But I do think that he is great. I think he does great work. I think he does great communications. So yeah. All right, let's go back over to Samurai Destroyer. I see you, buddy, over there. Yeah, okay, Samurai Destroyer is bringing up Jacob Blake and Kyle Rittenhouse. So first of all, Samurai Destroyer, I don't know that anything that quote-unquote left-wing media said about both of those cases was inaccurate. I haven't seen any stories about any retractions that they have had to pull based on those cases. But I will say this, in addition, let's say that what you're saying is accurate and that they did get things wrong about those cases. I also haven't seen any evidence that they did it on purpose. And that is the big difference between left-wing media and right-wing media. We have evidence that right-wing media is publishing stories that they know are untrue. But we don't have evidence of that with the mainstream media or with left-wing media. That is the big difference, you know? So again, I don't know if they published misinformation about either of those cases, but even if they did, I have not seen any data to suggest that they did it on purpose and that they knew it was false before they published it. Graham Tam63 says, what about Jasmine Crockett? I think she's great. I love Jasmine Crockett. Cadreth says, will ranked choice voting ever come to federal elections? Not if Republicans are ever in charge. In fact, the Republican Party is trying to make ranked choice voting illegal. I have this in my notes somewhere. I want to make sure I do it correctly. HR 3040, Republicans trying to ban ranked choice voting. So for all of you fucking tankies out there who want ranked choice voting so you can vote for more far left candidates, congratulations. You got to vote for centrists if you even want to get ranked choice voting. I get a little spicy against the far left sometimes because I got real pissed off at them I got real pissed off at the Never Kamala crowd and the Genocide Joe crowd, but I extend my full empathy to every American voter, whether you are left, right, or center. Dan Blackwood said the claims of Rittenhouse misinformation is an example of right-wing shadowboxing. What do you think about that, Samurai Destroyer, over on Twitch? You still here, punk? Let's see here. Jake Gyllenhaal spit facts. Oh my god, I love when you guys call me handsome, or just say that I'm, handsome adjacent, or I look like a handsome person. Saki 67. Ooh, are you Jen Psaki? Is Fox a propaganda machine for Trump's lies? The answer is yes. If you are Jen Psaki, you already knew that the answer to that question was yes. Let's see here. Trinity says, hi, did you fix your audio? No, I have not. But my numbers are down, so maybe we'll try again in a second. Oh, Wavy Layship 99. Stop it. You're going to make me blush. Scott says, I'm crazy far left. I voted for both of them. Thank you very much. I would describe myself also as crazy far left, but I also vote for better over worse every fucking day of the week. Scott says, you can be super far left and still have voted for Biden. Oh, yeah, the same person. Yeah. James Etrike says, only the ignorant and educated will vote for Trump, and that's who Trump loves. So, James, there's a part of me that wants to agree with you very, very much. But here's the thing. These are not en masse bad people or ignorant people. There are a couple of things that we can say for certain. We know that if you vote Republican, you are most likely uneducated or undereducated. That does not mean that those people are stupid. But maybe there are things that you learn when you get an education that make it, harder for you to fall for misinformation and conspiracy theories and things like that. That's number one. Number two is we need to have empathy for all those people because, if you were born into that family, going to that church, getting your information off of that Facebook feed, you might have been fooled by that information as well. And number three, Republicans do not have a monopoly on getting conned. Remember how I was talking about the Never Kamala crowd? There were a lot of leftists out there who were tricked into thinking that it would be a better move for the country, for minorities, for the people in Gaza, what have you, to either not vote or vote for Donald Trump. There are 8 million people who did not vote in 2024 who did vote in 2020. And those people were Democratic voters who got tricked, who got conned. So we cannot stand, up in our fucking ivory towers and think, oh my God, we're so much better than the right-wing voters because those idiots got fucking conned into voting for Donald Trump. Because there's a lot of leftists who got conned as well. Let's see here. Nice guy 689 says President Trump is the Prince of Peace. Cool. That is inaccurate. Nice guy 689. You don't advocate for ethnically cleansing Palestine if you are the Prince of Peace. Luke says, did you like Kamala? Yeah, she wasn't my favorite, but I did like her. Kamala. Scott, I vote my conscience in the primary and reduction of harm in the general election. That is the move, Scott. I put it a different way. I say vote for the person in the primary, vote for the platform in the general. Let's see here. Why do you think little Marco Rubio folded? He comes from a family of immigrants from Cuba. Because he is, what's the word I'm looking for? Because he's ambitious, and he understands that if he is going to have a career in politics going forward, that he has to bend the knee to the Trump administration. So yeah, there you go. If you are so loose with your fucking values that you will throw them away for somebody like Donald Trump, instant piece of shit, garbage. That should be enough to never vote for any Republican ever again. Lacking a spine, that is accurate. RTP's falsetto. Jacob33 says, how do you feel about the threat of habeas corpus being suspended? So the Trump administration has effectively already suspended habeas corpus. There are like 800 people who are rotting in a concentration camp in El Salvador right now because the Trump administration does not give a shit about habeas corpus. The justice system, the judiciary, is currently working on reversing that because we still have habeas corpus. They still are required to, go through due process with all of these people. In trying to get rid of habeas corpus, the Trump administration is trying to defang the judiciary and saying, you are not allowed to tell us to bring those people back because we are not obligated to prove to you that they have done anything wrong. It is dictator shit. It is not Nazi shit. It's just more fucking extreme right-wing authoritarian dictator shit, and it is more of the that should be enough to never vote for a Republican candidate ever again. All right, Samurai Destroyer, just because you haven't seen evidence they don't do it on purpose doesn't mean they didn't. Like many of the media haven't even apologized to Kyle Rittenhouse. If you want to see the evidence of misinformation, listen to MSNBC. Have they responded to Kyle Rittenhouse case? Like they frame it as not only in the comments we're clowning on them. All I'm saying is there's misinformation on either side. So Samurai Destroyer, I have people on my comments and TikTok saying that there was no misinformation on Kyle Rittenhouse on the mainstream media. So if you want to refer me to a specific thing that was said or done, then we can engage on this. But yeah, I am plugged in, my man. Like I am a political news junkie. And I was all over the fucking Kyle Rittenhouse case when it was happening, and I did not see anything like what you were talking about. Have you considered the fact that because you are a enjoyer and appreciator and consumer of right-wing media, that you have been told things that are inaccurate, Samurai Destroyer? Lester Holt just corrected a story last night on NBC Nightly News. It occurs. Yeah, I've never said that mainstream media or left-wing media does not make mistakes. But again, I've said this for 1,000 fucking times. There's a big difference between a news organization making a mistake and a news organization publishing a story that they know to be false because they are trying to push a specific agenda. The right-wing media is guilty of the latter. The mainstream media is guilty of the former. Boom. Oh no, dude, I'm not even a MAGA. Well, I mean, a lot of the things that you say are coming straight out of the right-wing propaganda machine. So if you're trying to tell me that you don't watch any right-wing media whatsoever, I find that very hard to believe. Maybe your news feed on whatever social media it is that you consume has been skewed by the algorithm to feed you right-wing misinformation. But that is a lot of what I get out of our discussions, Samurai Destroyer. Alrighty. Jacob33 says, and thoughts on the birthright case yesterday in SCOTUS. So I am waiting for the brilliant women of the Strict Scrutiny podcast to dig into that a little bit more. I did see a TikTok by Leah Lippman, who is a very intelligent scholar, lawyer, author, talking about how it seems as though the Republican justices are open to the arguments that the Trump administration's legal counsel was making. Now, what does that mean exactly? It doesn't mean that they are ruling on whether or not birthright citizenship is allowed to be reversed. What they were saying was that the nationwide injunction that the judge put on the birthright citizenship executive order may or may not be allowed. Like, you in Colorado cannot put an injunction on Missouri, for example. And that is kind of psychotic, in my opinion. And a lot of people who are legal scholars will agree with that. But, the extremely right-wing Supreme Court will often, hold water for the Republican Party and the Trump administration. So it's not surprising. It is infuriating, and it should activate everybody to do the work of stopping the Republican Party and the Trump administration. But yeah, it's not surprising at all. So yeah. All right, Graham Tam, excellent and agree. Okay. Okay. The right to appeal to race. P. Saki67 says, can clarify the difference between journalism and talk show hosts like Hannity. Yeah. So, I'm not an expert in the laws around what is allowed to classify itself as news versus what is allowed to classify themselves as entertainment. Somebody in the chat earlier said that Fox had to refile their classification as entertainment as opposed to news because of how much they lean into opinion. But as far as I know, there are regulations around what an organization is allowed to do and say if they are a quote-unquote news organization. And so when you have opinion journalists like Hannity, they have a lot of leeway to just make shit up. All right, everybody, we are at about an hour. If you got any final questions, let me know in the chat. I am so thankful for all of you being here, for all of the gifts and the likes and the shares. I appreciate all of the support that you guys give me, whether it is the free kind or the not free kind. You can support me financially if you like, but you do not have to. I have a Patreon that you can find on my website. I have a store that you can find on my website, and you can send gifts and subscribe and shit like that. But again, put food on the table first before you throw me any nickels or quarters. If you have any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream, my DMs are open, and also you can email me through my website, jaredberenstein.com. My regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. That is subject to change, but I am in town for the foreseeable future, so that should be the schedule going forward. If you are ever curious about my streaming schedule or my stand-up schedule, you can find all that information on my calendar at jaredberenstein.com. And just lastly and finally, my heartfelt plea for you all to do the work. Please, do the work. I can't do it all by myself. We got to convince people to vote. We got to convince people to vote for Democrats. We got to convince people to get out of the right-wing misinformation bubbles. We got to convince people to join us in this fight, because the more people that we recruit to do this work, the less work that we all individually have to do. And there is no organization on the planet besides activated citizens that have the ability to stop the Trump administration and the Republican Party as it stands. Because Congress is in the hands of the Republican Party, the Department of Justice is in the hands of the Republican Party, the judiciary is largely in the hands of the Republican Party, and of course the White House is fucking Trump and Musk and Stephen Miller. There's reporting out of the New York Times that says that Stephen Miller is in charge of the Justice Department right now, which is fucking psychotic and wildly unethical and extremely scary. So yeah, you should all be fucking infuriated and in the streets and doing the fucking work, guys. We can have hope, we can have self-care, we can take some time to fucking watch Andor and not worry about this shit, but we gotta do the work. Otherwise we're fucked, guys. Alrighty, let's see here. Samurai Destroyer. So I'm consuming misinformation for calling out misinformation on the left. Like, even there are liberals who even agree with me on defending Kyle Rittenhouse. Like, I defended Kyle Rittenhouse because I looked at the evidence, and the left and media have been lying about him and villainizing him, even made fun of him for having PTSD and breaking down in court when recalling the event he had to defend himself. Yeah, Samurai Destroyer, you're not listening to what I'm saying, because I'm not saying that you calling out misinformation means that you are, absorbing misinformation. I'm just saying that of all the many times that you and I have discussed politics on Twitch, I have seen not one piece of evidence to suggest that you are not deep in the right-wing propaganda rabbit hole. And so why is it then that you and I have such vastly different ideas about what is going on in the culture, what is going on in the government, what is going on in the news media? The arguments that you present to me come straight from right-wing propaganda. So, let's talk about it, man. Like, you don't have to just fucking, yell at me and tell you that you calling me a liar and shit like that. Like, we can discuss this shit, Like, really look at where you're getting your information from. Really look at the accounts that you are liking and sharing and shit like that, because that is directly related to the things that are coming out of your noodle and through your fingers and into my Twitch chat, man. Inverted Mystic, good to see you again. Thank you for being here. My only question is Trump responsible for the India-Pakistan? Yeah, I'm not trying to be a jerk to Samurai Destroyer. Inverted Mystic, absolutely. Responsible for India-Pakistan thing, or was this inevitable, like China and Taiwan? Sir, when you say is he responsible for the India-Pakistan thing, do you mean that is he responsible for them going to war with each other, or is he responsible for the tensions decelerating? Because all the reporting that I have seen suggests that he did not have a hand in any of it, either the escalation or the de-escalation. What does it have to do with consuming right-wing media? Like, I'm not mad at you, I'm just pursuing the truth. Yeah, we are a product of the media that we consume. So the things that you have said in the past have suggested to me that you consume media that skews to a right-wing bent. And that doesn't mean that you are a bad person or ill-informed or unintelligent. That just means that that is what the algorithm has found for you. Tell me where you get your news from, man. Like, we're kind of, talking in circles around this, but like, tell me, like, do you get it off of, do you read any papers or websites, or is it just, do you just collect things out of the ether like so many of us do? So many people, most Americans, they just get their news off of social media and the cultural zeitgeist. They see what people are talking about and they go, all right, well, that's probably the case, G Money says, not gonna lie, you're the one lose if you focus on the left more than the right. G Money, I don't know what that means. Can you clean that up? Let's see here. You need to stay away from. Why does MAGA overlook that Trump's team is staffed with obvious Bond villains like Stephen Miller? Yeah, I don't fucking know, man. He said Trump was responsible for Ukraine. Yeah, as much as I want to give Trump blame for every bad thing that goes on in the world, I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that is the case. Even I'm trying to be unbiased as possible and try to find ground news media that is moderate, and centrist. So you're saying that you get most of your information off of ground news, Samurai Destroyer? Is that what you're telling me? Do you also engage in social media? Jacob33 says, thoughts on 45's deal made with Syrian leader. Okay, so I was asked about this a couple of days ago, and I misspoke because I forgot what I had learned earlier about Syria. Foreign affairs is not my specialty, guys. I've said this many times. But yeah, so the people who are in charge of Syria right now are the people who ousted Assad. And yes, some of them were involved in terrorist organizations in the past, but they are saying that they are not going to do that going forward. They are saying that they're going to be an open and inclusive country. And so progressives like myself have looked at that and said, let us try to take that at face value. We can remove sanctions based off of from Syria based on that, which will help the general population of Syria, because sanctions really only hurt the bottom 99% in most cases. And, if they go back on their word and they start doing human rights violations again, then we can always put those sanctions back on. Now, I do not believe that that is why Trump removed sanctions from Syria. I believe that they told him he could build the Trump Tower there, and that is the reason why he removed those sanctions. So yeah, sometimes shitty people do good things for the wrong reasons. The social media I only engage in is YouTube, but I don't watch those conservative MAGA YouTubers that much, even if I were to agree with them on social issues. But on Trump, I don't agree with them because they're basically just Trump defenders. Okay, Samurai Destroyers. So you may or may not know this, but YouTube skews information heavily to the right. So even if you don't think, even if you're not like absorbing, like if you're not like watching Ben Shapiro or shit like that, you are still seeing videos that push you towards the right-wing propaganda philosophies. Now, you say you don't watch conservative MAGA YouTubers that much, but you do watch them some, as like, I don't watch them at all because, they're completely full of shit. I can understand if they have some appeal for you, my man, but you got to recognize that they are just saying bullshit, my man. And like, I'm down for discussing these issues with you, buddy. But yeah, if I was gonna give you just like one top line fucking, bullet point, it would just be that what you are seeing on YouTube is lying to you, my man. All right, I have got to get out of here. Have an excellent weekend, everybody. Thank you for being here. Do the work. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. And I will talk to you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Take care. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.